Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished marketer from Vancouver, Canada, Mr. Ben Baker. Ben, welcome to the show.
Ash, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Ben is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Your Brand Marketing. He's an author, and all of you know that I am very partial to authors. He's an author of two books, and we'll talk about them. One is called Powerful Personal Brands, a hands-on guide to understanding yours. And the second one is Leading Beyond a Crisis, a conversation about what's next. So Ben, before we start talking about branding, tell me about your own journey in brief.
I'm sorry, I missed you.
Your own journey.
Oh, my journey. Okay. I'm a recovering techaholic.
Okay.
I came from the high-tech background. When I was in university in the 1980s, I ran the mainframe. So back then, it was the AS400 systems. Yep. You were running listservs, and there was no such thing as an internet. My last job was working for a company called Ingram Micro. I was in the air 200 days a year, and I never saw my wife. And we looked at each other and said, okay, this is a divorce waiting to happen. And they were, kind enough to buy me out. And I learned that what I really love to do is marketing. I love marketing. I love branding. I love storytelling. And I've spent the last 27 years doing that for companies around North America, Australia, some in Europe. And what we do is, for the last 10 years at least, we help people tell their story inside the company and help drive change.
Amazing. Fascinating. So let's now talk about personal branding, which is an area that you are a guru in. Can you define personal branding and why is it important in today's world?
Well, I like Jeff Bezos' comment on branding. It says, your brand is who you are when you're not in the room. It's how other people see you. You can influence your brand, but it's how other people perceive you that your brand truly is. So it's how you act every single day. It's not the likes, and it's not the passionate thing that you do on a daily thing, but it's what you do each and every single day that drives your brand. And what's important about your brand is that's how people connect with you. That's how people trust you. That's how people are motivated by you. That's why people listen to you. That's why people promote you. That's why people give you money. And I think that having a strong personal brand is all about building trust in this world.
Correct. Well said. And what are some of the common mistakes a lot of people make when building their personal brand?
I think they don't have a true belief of who they are. You are who you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. When you try to be somebody else, you're not living your brand. When you're trying to be Paris Hilton, or you're trying to be Seth Godin, or you're trying to be Sir Richard Branson, whoever you're trying to be, pick a name, you're not being true to yourself. And people can perceive that, and people look at that and they say, okay, who is this person? And why should I trust them? Because they're not being authentic to themselves. And I think that's the biggest mistake anybody has. It doesn't matter if you're 18 years old or you're 80.
Well said. And my next question is that how can how can a person identify their own unique personal brand and stand out in a crowded marketplace? And I know this could be a very big response.
That's a conversation we could have for the next hour or two.
Absolutely.
I think that people need to take the time to understand, first of all, where did they come from? What are the things that are important to them? What are the things that they are willing to live and die for? What are the things that they're willing to fight for? And what are the things they're willing to fight against? What do they truly believe? What are the things that matter to them so deeply that if they were gone, they would miss them? And I think that those are the really things that people need to think about when they're thinking about their brand, is what are the three-legged stool that if you chopped off one of those legs, you'd fall on your backside and it wouldn't be you anymore. And I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Well said. And when you work with people, what do you say are some strategies for building and promoting a personal brand?
I think consistency and thinking long term. Too many people today are looking for the next short fix. They're looking for the hack. They're looking for what can they do today, tomorrow, or the next day. And all of a sudden it's built, it's done. A brand is a marathon and it takes time. And what you need to do is if you make a mistake, if you stumble, you need to be able to stand up and say, I made a mistake.
Correct.
And you need to be able to say, hey, listen, how do I fix this? And not look to blame at other people, not look to point fingers, but take ownership for who you are and what you've done. And then when we do this consistently, time after time after time, that's how we build our brand. But if we start looking for the shortcut, we'll never find it.
So Ben, you just spoke about consistency in personal branding. What are some of the ways that people can maintain consistency in their branding? And if you have an example, please give me one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, let's take LinkedIn for example, because I'm on LinkedIn every single day. Every single day, I make comments. I comment on other people's posts. I write a post. I write blogs, write articles. I write something on LinkedIn every single day. And there's always a theme. These are the things that I talk about. I talk about personal branding. I talk about change management. I talk about communication. And I talk about listening. Those are the four things that I talk about. And because I talk about those things, and that is who I am, and people, if they look back 1,000 days, will see that that's what I talk about over and over and over again, whether it's on my own posts or commenting on somebody else's. I'm extremely consistent and I stay in my lane. And if it's something that I don't know anything about, I don't talk about it.
Right. Right. Very interesting. So my next question to you is that, people often say that you can leverage your personal brand to achieve career or business goals. Tell me a little bit more if this is correct. And if so, how can one do it?
Your personal brand is, I keep going back to the word trust. And when people trust you, they'll work with you. They'll promote you. They'll recommend you. They'll give you opportunity. They'll enable you to do things that you can't do before. If people trust you, if you're just starting out in a company and you're a consistent individual that's always there, that always shows up on time, never complains, always asks good questions, finishes their work, make sure that things are done right. You're going to be the person that your manager is going to be able to sit there and say, wait a second, there's more stuff to do. Let's give them a chance. Let's give them a chance to grow and expand and try different things and learn different things. And maybe you'll send them away for training. Maybe you'll give them another opportunity. Maybe you'll give them an opportunity to lead. And that goes on through your entire career. And as you grow in your career, if people know that you're the person that does this and is known for that, they're going to be the one that they're going to come to whenever they have a problem or somebody that they need, somebody that they can rely upon.
Well said. Thank you. And can personal branding also help in building personal relationships and social connections?
I think so. I mean, we build relationships every day. And we build relationships with people we know, like, and trust. We build relationships. If I don't like you, I might be nice to you. I might be considerate to you. I might, give you the time in the day to do this, but I may never trust you and I may never form that relationship with you. But if you're somebody that I like, if you're somebody that I trust, if you're somebody that I find reliable, if you're somebody that I can identify with, I'm going to spend more time with you. And whether that's somebody you're looking to date, that's somebody you're looking to marry, that's somebody that you're, relationship with you have with your kids or your parents or your friends, people want to be around people that they know they can rely on and they know that are going to be there for them, because your brand is as much about how people perceive you.
Correct. There's also another debate that keeps happening, and that is this whole topic of thought leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to get your perspective on what comes first, thought leadership or personal branding, and are they related to one another?
I think they're interrelated.
Mm-hmm.
I truly do. I think they're interrelated. Your thought leadership is you just going out and saying, this is my opinion about something and why.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be earth-shattering.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to change the world. We're all thought leaders at some level.
Correct.
You know, whether we're talking about the latest beer, we're talking about baseball, we're talking about hockey or cricket, you know, whether we're talking about finance, whatever, we're all experts in something. We all have enough knowledge about something to be able to say, this is what I do know, this is what I don't know, and be able to determine that. And that's a form of thought leadership. And when people listen to this, okay, that's interesting. That elevates your brand.
But what you're also saying is that they both go hand in hand. But I was wondering that if Ben Baker is a thought leader in, say, brand marketing, and if he comments on cricket, then people will listen to it because he's a thought leader.
Maybe if I can talk intelligently on cricket.
Okay.
I couldn't score a cricket game to save my life. I don't understand cricket at all. So if all of a sudden I started talking about cricket as an expert, that would hurt my brand.
Well said.
Because all of a sudden somebody who was a cricket expert or somebody who was a fanatic of cricket or somebody even knew anything about the sport of cricket knew that I didn't know anything about it. But I was trying to let people know that I knew.
Correct.
And therefore people are going to sit there and go, wait a second here. He doesn't know what he's talking about. If he doesn't know what he's talking about this, what else has he been lying to me about?
Well said. So how can a personal brand help in building reputation and establishing oneself as, you know, as a thought leader? So if you know, we just spoke about thought leader and personal branding, and I was wondering that if I'm a strong personal brand, how do I go about trying to establish that I know a lot of things about a lot of subjects?
I don't think you ever do. I don't think any of us know a lot of things about a lot of subjects today. It's impossible. I really don't think we all know. We may know a lot of subjects, but we probably know a cursory amount about each one of them. And we have to be able to say, and we have to have the deference to say, you know what, I know this, but I don't know that. Or I think this, or I'm not sure about, or this is my perception based on the knowledge that I have. Because to call ourselves an expert on anything today is almost impossible.
Correct.
The amount of knowledge that's coming at us on an hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second basis is impossible to keep up with. I could sit here and read for the next 20 years straight on the subject of branding.
Correct.
And still not know everything.
Well said. And are there any ethical considerations that one should keep in mind when building a personal brand?
I think the most important thing is that if you're being unethical, if you're not telling the truth, if you're lying to people, if you're being deceptive, not only are you hurting other people, but you're hurting your own personal brand. Because sooner or later, people will find out. You know, every Ponzi scheme gets figured out sooner or later.
Correct.
And I think that if we think of it that way, all of our brands can tumble at any given time if we don't maintain them, if we're not careful about what we say and how we say it.
And for my viewers and listeners, Ben, could you share any stories of people you have worked with, without, of course, any names, but how did it work and what were the success stories like?
Yeah, I mean, some of the most successful people I know was, and this is going back, let's go back 40 years. And I can mention Sam by first name because Sam's no longer with us. Sam was a great uncle of mine. And Sam grew up in the era of, shall we say, the Tin Men. If anybody's seen the movie Tin Men, it was the era of, you know, illusion. And Sam was one of those guys that stood up on stage with a microphone in his ear, telling him his speech as he sit there and talk to the audience. And he was an incredibly charismatic, amazingly convincing man. But you looked at it and sit there and say, in his life, he made his fortune, he lost his fortune. He made his fortune, he lost his fortune. There was never that consistency time and time again. He was one of the most amazing people I ever learned from, learning how to time an audience, how to build trust with an audience, how to listen to an audience, how to be able to read an audience. And I learned all that from him. But Sam was always that people that took the brand to the very laser edge. And sometimes he creeped over it. And when he did, there was always that opportunity that he fell. And when he fell hard. Now, he always picked himself up and went again. But he was always one of those people that you knew sooner or later there was going to be a slip. And there was going to be a fall.
Amazing. Thank you. Great story. And at what stage of one's career should one start thinking of investing in one's personal brand?
Probably high school. I think it's never too early to start. And I think you're going to spend the first 20 years of your life discovering who you truly are. You know, from the time you're 15 or 16 to the time you're 35, your brand is changing, your branding is evolving. And the truth of the matter is, I'm 53. My brand is still evolving and it's still changing, but it's not evolving and it's changing as rapidly.
Correct.
But the first 20 years, you're learning who you are. You're learning what's important to you. You're learning how to communicate your brand, how to codify your brand, how to articulate, how to listen, how to empathize. And, you know, that takes time. It's like, when's the best time to plant a tree? Well, 20 years ago. What's the second best time? Today. And I think if we start realizing that there's a long runway with this, and you're going to learn and you're going to fall on your face a couple times and you're going to pick yourself up and you're going to learn, and you may fall again and again, but you're going to get there eventually. I think that the more time we have to do that when we're young, the better time we have to recover. And then when you're in a position where you're the leader and you're the position in power, you're going to understand your brand and be a better leader. And be able to be that effective person as you go forward.
Well said. And is a behavioral change a precursor to building a personal brand?
I think so. I think it's a psychological thing. I think a personal brand is more of a psychological thing. You need to understand that you are who you are with the good, the bad, and the ugly. We all have things in our life that we've done that we're not proud of, that were questionable, that, you know, we're a little circumspect, but they are who we are. And we've learned from, hopefully we've learned from them. And to try to sit there and say, no, that wasn't me. No, that was you. And that's okay, because that was a younger version of yourself. And did you learn from that? Will you ever do that again? No. And what will that teach you moving forward? And I think if we learn from our mistakes, and if we're willing to admit our mistakes and bring that into our lexicon and bring that into our brand story and tell people, says, hey, listen, I fell just like you're falling, just like they fell, but I got up. And this is how I move forward. That makes your brand far more authentic.
Interesting. One more question for personal branding, and then I want to move to your book.
Sure.
How does one handle conflict, if any, with the brand of your organization?
I think you need to find a happy medium between the brand that you work for and the brand that you are. And you're going to bend, and they're going to bend. But the question is, how far do you bend? If you're in a company where you can't walk in the door every day and look at yourself in the mirror and be proud of what you're doing, you're probably in the wrong place.
Okay.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I think you need to sit there and say that in the end, you wake up by yourself and you go to bed by yourself. And you need to be proud of who that person is. And you need to be able to live with who that person is. And the company is going to do what the company is going to do. And you need to either embrace that and be part of it and be proud of it, or you need to go find a different sandbox to play in.
Well said. So let's now talk about your books.
Sure.
Your first book was, or one of your books was Powerful Personal Brands, and we've done a lot of talking about personal branding already.
Exactly.
But I want to speak about your second book, which is Leading Beyond a Crisis.
Yeah.
A conversation about what's next. Tell me about this book, and what was your hypothesis when you wrote it?
This book was a book by accident.
Okay.
This book came about in June, July of 2020, right in the height of the COVID crisis. Yeah. And I was running a podcast with my friend Claire Chandler. And Claire and I came up with the idea of leading beyond a crisis because we were sitting there going, everybody was, grabbing their knees and rocking back and forth and saying, woe is me, and look how terrible things are, and oh my God, and the skies are falling in Chicken Little and everything that's going with it. And we're going, okay, but who's talking about what's next? How do we get out of this? What are we learning from the mistakes that we're making every single day? How do we amalgamate this? How do we articulate this? And how do we move forward? And how do we build leaders that can sit there in the middle of a crisis and say, you know what? Yes, things are tough, but we're going there. And we may not get there, but that's the goal today. And if we have to pivot, we need to pivot.
Right.
And so this was a podcast. And halfway through the podcast, we said, you know what? This is really good stuff. And so what we did is we transcribed it, we edited it, and we looked at it, and we added a little bit, and we subtracted a little bit, and it became the book. And it really is a he said, she said conversation.
Wow.
And at the end of each chapter, what we've done is we've asked a question and we've left room for you to answer it on your own. So there's a workbook function to it. And it really is that conversation about, okay, the world might be coming to heck in a handbasket, but how do we fix it? Instead of sitting there wringing our hands and doing nothing about it.
Wonderful. And my last question to you, Ben, and this is for the thousands of people who will listen to our conversation.
Yes.
Based on your amazing understanding of branding and marketing, what would you say are 3 lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away?
Be humble. Listen more than you speak. And always be curious. I think those are the 3 things that any brand can do, because if you're curious, you're always going to be looking to say what's coming next. If you're humble, you're going to realize that you don't know everything, and that leads to your curiosity. And the third part is listening. Listening to others enables you to understand. And when you understand, you get a far better sense of the world than when you're talking.
Well said. And on that note, and your 3 wonderful lessons, be humble, listen more than you speak, and be curious. Thank you, Ben, for speaking to me about your own journey, about personal branding. And I think we went into such amazing details about so many different aspects of personal branding. I'm sure our viewers and listeners are going to really love all the points that you have given them. I'm also asking all our viewers and listeners to go and check out both your books. I will go and check them out myself. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck.
Ash, thank you for having me on the show, and thank you to your wonderful audience. You do an amazing thing.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.